thank you for inviting me, first of all, and just for offering the space for everyone, all of us, to be able to connect as a community of people that can understand each other and know kind of more insights of what we're going through. The general people on the streets and even our own family often probably don't understand because they're not going through what we're going through. So thank you for giving us this space to come together. That's very meaningful to me, and one of the reasons I'm just grateful to be here and share. So my name is Rita Lynn, and I have a holistic company called Seraphim Holistics. I found holistic wellness after my muscular FSHD diagnosis, and going through a lot of, as you all probably can imagine and probably have gone through as well, a lot of different searches for answers and for relief and for healing. So it's been a very long journey. I feel like I'm 47. I have 3 children. I have a 20-year marriage that we're still working on learning each other. Nothing is, I think, quote, ideal or I say normal for anyone. People use that word, but when it comes to people like us with this diagnosis, oftentimes we think of ourselves like this. And so that was what I had been struggling with for a very long time. I didn't even want to go and get this when I learned that I actually could and that I really needed it, because I was, assuming things about myself that really weren't true. I was beating myself up because of my diagnosis. And so thankfully, I eventually found an integrative health physician. And that's what I always start with, is that we are not just a body. And so before I get into more things, I'll just mention too, I've had 25 years of spiritual studies through various different beliefs, philosophies, and religions. And then after that, I began meditating. I believe meditation found me through one of my mentors. And so guided meditation is what I did for 5 years. And then I found mantra meditation. And then I found transcendental meditation. And again, I believe these practices find us just like we're here today. Like, I don't think anyone's on this call by coincidence. I believe that this is all kind of a divine connection. Yeah. And so then I decided, after I learned transcendental meditation, to go ahead and attend the university that teaches conscious-based learning. So I am going to Maharishi International University, and I'm enrolled in a Bachelor's of Applied Arts and Science, specializing in consciousness and human potential. And that's a lot of big words and things that it really just means that I wanted to learn more about who I am and who everyone is as humans, versus just focusing on education platforms that teach us in our minds and for our bodies. I really believe that we are more than that. I know I am. And so I am under the understanding that whatever I am, what's in front of me is a reflection of who I am. And so then I do have this belief about every human being on the planet, in the world, and in all the universes. And that's what I'm learning more about at this university. So what I want to do today is kind of just build on what I shared last week. And so I'll mention a few just simple things that are really daily practices that is really beneficial to all areas of our well-being. There's a way that I'm learning now that we can help our bodies and our minds deal with things like this, or anything really we're going through. This is particularly what we're here for, though. And that I'm learning the actual ways to do that. And so previously this would be considered mystical or even spiritual, but now science is definitely showing that practices like transcendental meditation have and other holistic resources have scientific benefits for our bodies and our minds and even our soul, spirit, if you believe that. And so that's really refreshing, and it has brought my life, after this life-changing diagnosis, so much peace and wellness and love that I didn't have for myself before. So like, we're being here is not a coincidence. Us having this diagnosis is also not a coincidence. It's for, I believe, learning. Everything in this world, I did consider it a problem in the beginning, and now I realize all problems are learning, and that if we can see from a holistic perspective who we really are, beyond just this, then that does bring wellness and even pain relief, not only to our minds and our hearts, but in our physical bodies, as well. And as I've been practicing transcendental meditation and mantra meditation for 2 years, this is what I'm finding. And so I've made it my purpose now, to share these findings with the world. Anybody that will listen or that wants to look for another resource, I believe that that's divine. So what I'm going to start with is self-talk. And I know that sounds like, how does self-talk have to do with feeling fit? And honestly, I've come to the belief that it has everything to do with feeling fit, because the way we feel comes from the way we treat ourselves first, not necessarily from our diagnosis. Now, we're not always taught this, and we don't always practice this, so we wouldn't really know what the results are unless we did a trial, right? So when my mentor recommended to focus on my self-talk instead of, not instead of, but maybe in addition to my other resources and health regimens, I didn't think it would make much of a difference. I thought it was hokey pokey, and I'm like, oh, this is okay. I'll try it though, because I was at that wit's end that I just needed a solution and an answer to my pain, because otherwise I believed I wasn't supposed to be here anymore physically. Like, I believed that my body and my presence in this world was not needed or necessary, and that I had no value or benefit to give to not only my children and my family, my husband, but to anybody. And it was a very dark place. And so self-talk was one of the first resources I found before I ever even found breath work and meditation. I began speaking better to myself. So I'm just going to share a few self-talk statements that I actually do use. It changes in different seasons and different times, based on where I'm at, my mental health and my physical health. But today I will share with you what I'm speaking to myself, and just as an inspiration that maybe you can pick up some of these, and I call them I am statements. You might have heard that before. And so these are things that you could consider saying to yourself as well, and just doing a trial. I'm going to try this for 7 days and see if it changes, see if anything does change. And so I'll get started into those. And there's only 7 here. And you don't have to write them down or anything. What I really want you to do now, if you're comfortable, is close your eyes. And as I say these statements, I want you to repeat them silently to yourself within your mind, and not necessarily look at me. I will have, obviously, my eyes opened. I'm going to look at I do write them down. That will be the second recommendation, that if this resonates with you, you can write them down. I know this is being recorded, but I will also send a follow-up email with these details. So here are my 7 I am statements that I say to myself now. And I do this every morning in the mirror. I am joyful. I am creative. I am confident. I am in awareness. I am communicating clearly. I am in wisdom. I am love. And so that's the 7 I am statements that I practice each morning in the season. And those have been said to be able to address the different areas of our mental health and physical health. If think energy. I know you've probably heard everything is energy, and even words are said and believed, and science is beginning to get to showing that have energy in the words. And so when we speak things like I am disabled and I am muscular dystrophy, then those aren't the high energy that we could potentially be having. So it's not that we're denying any of the truths about us. What we're doing now is focusing on who we are in addition to our physical body. We're focusing on a deeper level. I always explain this as the ocean. Our body is like the surface level of the ocean. Constant emotion, constant feelings, constant thoughts here, right? It doesn't stop. We wake up and we have no choice but to face this reality. We look in the mirror and that's what we have. But the truth is there's a deeper level to who humanity is. And that's the comparison of deep, deep, deep in the ocean. And you can probably all realize and admit that not as many people see the deep of the ocean, right? You have to be a scuba diver. You have to be in the military in a submarine. There's a special group of people that actually train and, get ready to go to the deep, into the deeper stillness. There's stillness there. And that's proven. We know that. We can look at the science of what oceans are. And so I always compare our body to the surface level. And then there's that middle ground, which is more of our mind. And then there's the deep. And the deep is there's really no words. Some people call it God, the universe, spirituality, religion even, Christianity. There's so many different words, beliefs, and philosophies that we can put on it. But again, words are like our bodies. They're surface level, and they depend on what your meaning is of the word. What you believe that word means is what we get from words. And that's different for everyone. But what I'm learning in this university, and it's miu.edu, if you want to take a look at anything there. But that's where I'm learning that there are more basically levels of who we are. So the I am statements is something that is a daily routine. And what I consider that part of is self-care. Now that I see the results of using the affirmations, I am statements, and speaking to myself in this positive, high vibe, high energy, with these words specifically that are deeper than my surface level, has made such a difference in my life, in my well-being, my confidence, my strength. I'm physically stronger than I was before I began. I call it my daily routine. It's just a morning routine, a daily routine. It's very simple and basic, and it's something that everybody can do. And it doesn't matter what your physical capability is when it comes to these types of workouts. And so that's where I find so beautiful and just peaceful and comforting that I can work out and I can grow myself in ways that are beyond what we can focus on in the physical. And if you have any feedback or any comments, please feel free to put them in the chat or questions. I'm definitely here as a conversation, and any feedback is definitely welcome. Does anybody have anything yet before I get into the next thing?
Hi, Rita. So this is Rakesh. If I may, sorry, I joined a little bit late. So
Sure.
So have you ever tried meditating on so if you're going through pain, meditating on the focusing on those muscles areas and trying to reaffirm that these muscles are your part of your body, they are friends, they are
Yes.
and it does help you with managing pain or even the weakness we face. Have you ever tried that?
Yes, and that's the way I did that was more of you've probably heard of progressive muscle relaxation. I haven't necessarily focused on meditating on the issues that I have in specific muscles, but I have practiced progressive muscle relaxation, and that definitely is a form of meditation that focuses on our muscles in our body from toe to head, and includes our entire body and muscular structure. And I do have had benefits from that, and I highly recommend if anybody is trying that to just continue. And the specifically though, the type of meditation, and we're going to get into this again a little bit later, but is mantra meditation. And so at the university, they teach transcendental meditation, and the science behind that is actually that there's we know 3 states of consciousness, but there's actually a 4th, in theory, many more. But that when we go to that state of consciousness in our meditation, that all of our body is addressed, because we're going into the deep, and the surface level is a result of the deep. So that's just what I would mention about that.
I had a question.
One other thing I wanted to add to.
Oh, go ahead, Rakesh.
No, go ahead if you have something to add on this one. I just wanted to add something else.
Oh, okay. No, I was wondering if you were addressing, and I'm by no means an expert on meditation or anything, but we've listened to a lot of conversations about mindfulness, for example, and that it sounds, Rakesh, like what you were saying is when you meditate on the area that is causing the pain, that you can also develop a different relationship to it, that it's not something there that just kind of just takes over subconsciously, but you know, and I think it involves things like, just being aware, appreciating the muscles, thanking them for the work they're doing, and of basically not being able to, it's almost like distance yourself a little bit from the pain. You can observe the pain, but you're not consumed by it. Does that resonate, or is that the kind of thing you're referring to?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to the point. You're to the point. So, the whole concept about mindfulness is, your mind is, and this is just any human, your mind is the most powerful, tool you have, in your body, and it has the ability to basically, change, control, or reinforce anything you want in your life, or in your body rather, in this case. And by synchronizing your mind, that yes, your mind resides in this body, and it needs to basically make it better in this way, it does reinforce that part of the body. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes, I resonate with that. Thank you for sharing and asking.
I'd just like to mention something.
Yes.
It just rings really loud with me from some of my background is, I can make myself angry by thoughts. Why can't you make yourself happy with thoughts? I mean, it's really pretty simple when you think about it. And and also you can make yourself hurt by thinking about an accident or where it's at. So it should work the other way, and it does work the other way. And it's good that you're going to help us focus on that.
Yes, good. And our body is divine. I don't dismiss our physical being at all. So that leads us into the next thing, actually, that I wanted to mention. One of my first classes at this university is called Ayurveda Cooking for Health. And the first dish that we learned how to make is called khichdi, Kitcheri. And so khichdi is very unique because it's a detoxification for our digestive system and our bodies in general. It also contains all of the different tastes and experiences that we can have and experience when it comes to food and flavors. There's pungent, spicy, sweet, the different experiences with food. So there's no specific recipe. You can just Google khichdi kitchery recipe, because there's many, and you can actually go to your health food store because it's a little involved with making your spices and then chopping the vegetables, and the seasonings are all from, the whole, like the whole peppercorn and the whole cumin, everything is whole. So maybe we don't necessarily have the physical ability to be in the kitchen doing all that. So what health food stores and companies have done is create mixes called, kitchery mix that has all the various ingredients and spices in there for us to then just kind of make it easier physically for us. So I did that for a while. And then this year in my university class, I actually learned how to do it from scratch, thinking I would never be in the kitchen doing anything like this again. And it does take time and patience and patience with myself, planning and prepping, asking my children to help me do the things physically that I cannot do. So maybe a friend could come over and help if you can't physically do everything from scratch. It would be a great bonding time for you and maybe a family member to do a kitchery meal together, and knowing that it could benefit both, everyone that has it and experiences it, detox your body and bring wellness overall. I highly recommend that. A daily routine for wellness includes all the areas in theory of who we are. So it would be mind, body, soul. And so that would obviously be focusing on our body, but there's so much when it comes to food, it's grown from the earth. And if it's grown in living soil, there's all these different details that we could look at. But the theory is that food does bring us life, and that if we're eating living foods, then we are enhancing our life, and we can enhance our life that way. When I got diagnosed and realized that there's really not an end to this, I was very, worried about and I completely dismissed food and meal plans because I physically couldn't do it. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to drink protein shakes every day. And that got boring, simple. I still have a protein shake every day. My muscular dystrophy physician recommended that to add additional protein to my diet, that could be beneficial. And I will admit it has been. My body actually got more, I would say my body mass index, my BMI, my weight and everything became very much more balanced overall, just by simply adding this one protein shake every day. And now I've been doing this for 5 years, but it basically helped my body balance without exercising. I wasn't running, obviously, or doing any kind of exercise. All I did was add this protein, and apparently that helps our bodies balance, whatever that means. If your body needs to lose a percentage of fat or raise a percentage of fat even, it will do that in that way. It's believed that our bodies can heal ourselves, and that we have an internal knowledge and an internal, even physician is what I like to call it, that can help us create our wellness and find our wellness. So food, additional protein, and if you want to Google the kitchery meal, and then along after that, food brings us life. But the first form of life that we receive when we wake up in the morning is our breath, right? We wake up and we take a breath, and we start being aware of who we are while we're awake. And so the next thing I wanted to mention was breath. Our breath, that could be a workout, and that we can add that into our daily routine, a routine of breath work. And I like to just keep it really simple. I've done somatic breathing classes, and you can Google that, somatic breath work. But basically what it means is our bodies have different reactions to different types of breathing. And so based on that knowledge, then we can take some time to be mindful of our breath and basically work on it, so that then our life can expand in whatever that means to you. Maybe it's more function, maybe it's just more peace of mind. And that's the main goal when I share all this, is not necessarily that we're going to be changing our bodies or our minds, but that we will find peace in all that we are experiencing. And so, these are things that not only people that are diagnosed with life-changing diagnoses, but also the everyday human being can definitely benefit from these, I say, workouts, practices. And so breath work. So what I like to share about breath work, and you've probably, heard all about this already, but that our in-breath and out-breath matter, and that breathing can actually be a detoxification for our entire bodies and minds. And the specific ways that I learned in the somatic classes was that when we inhale, we want to inhale through our nose so that those pathways are basically cleared out. And then we want to exhale through our mouth so that we're actually releasing whatever that is that might be being cleared out. And then the second tip for the breath work is that our out breath be long and slow. And so, that just, and basically that's because the in-breath brings us into our mind, into our state of being, and then the out-breath basically takes us out of that and into, quote, peace of mind, universal life. I've heard people say it takes them to God consciousness and things like that if you are spiritual. But that comes with practice. And so when we dedicate time to our breath work, which is what I started doing that 7 years ago. It did not only help give me peace of mind, but it also that was another part of my physical fitness and feeling fit. As I practiced that first couple of weeks of breath work, I first started sitting so that I could really, I didn't have to worry about my body. And again, everyone has a different physical structure. So you just want to be in the most comfortable position you can be in, whether that's sitting, standing, it's up to you. So I typically do practice my breath work while seated so that all of my body is as comfortable as possible. And then I can get into that, like what June mentioned, the mindfulness and what that really does to our bodies and minds happens more naturally versus being in a stressful situation or like in a loud area or standing when that's painful. So just make sure you find a comfortable space. And I found, I created a space in my home, and that's what I recommend for anyone that's going to be doing these kinds of practices, is to have somewhere to go where, even if it's just a corner of the room, but that's dedicated to your peace workouts, your peace of mind practices, or your daily routine, whatever you want to call it. And then begin your practice, right? First is just committing to it and saying, I'm going to do it. Maybe putting it on your calendar, breath work when I first wake up. Like for me, it's when I first wake up. That's just the only time I have in my home that's predictable, that I know I'm not going to be needed anywhere. My kids aren't even awake yet. That's when I do these workouts. And so does anybody want to practice a couple of the breathing? Would anybody be opposed to actually doing a few breaths here on the call?
Not me. I think that sounds great.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, good. So I will verbally guide you through the breathing exercise, and we'll just do a few. I don't want to create any tension or discomfort, because even though this is a mindfulness practice and a practice for peace, it can initiate thoughts. It can initiate, especially our in-breath, memories, triggers, and those kinds of things. So just be aware of that as you're breathing. And then the next instruction would be, if you could close your eyes, is very helpful. We're so, eye-opened beings. We see all day, every day. So anytime that we can really have to close our eyes and go within, it can really be impactful. I have found with myself and many of my students to be very, really life-changing. And again, when you say breath is life, it makes sense that focusing on our breath would help our life in some way. So, okay, so let's close our eyes. And then what I first do is just before I breathe in, I just try to breathe out. I just try to exhale everything. And I do make a noise when I breathe out of my mouth. It just is, it's a kind of a neural memory now for me that when I breathe out my mouth, it's very relaxing. And then so when we breathe in, you can count in your mind. And I started with 4 seconds, and I would breathe into my nose for 4 seconds. So we can start now. And then when you get to the end of that in breath, you want to do a gentle hold if possible before you release. And then as you release through your mouth, you just want to go long and slow. And I'll show you what I mean. Till there's nothing left. And then another maybe mini pause before your next in breath. And then we can count to 4 again, inside, and breathe in. And then hold, mini hold at the end. And then release. And then pause before we inhale again. And then inhale again for 4 through your nose. And then pause. And then out breath, long and slow. We'll do one more. In breath. Pause and out breath through your mouth. All the way. And I will mention one other thing here. What you will notice if you're doing your breath work deeply is that your stomach will potentially poke out. And that's normal. That's what we want. We don't necessarily want all of our breath in our chest. Depending on your physical conditions, this can really make a difference. For me, my chest, that's the part that's usually painful. So when I began to breathe into my abdomen more and practice that on a regular basis, I began in all of my day to also continue breathing that way. And that's where it's like a side effect, because if you're learning to breathe very consciously and mindfully into your abdomen deeply, right? Like the deep of the ocean, that can definitely reflect in our bodies physically, with our pain levels, our mental health even. So I would recommend, if you want to start a practice like that, to do that. Does anybody have any feedback or questions or anything at all about that? No? Okay. So that's one of the, you can also Google, I have one more tip in the breath work. You can Google pranayama. Pranayama. And so that's another form of breath work. It's a little bit more entailed with your hands. So that's the reason I didn't share that today. Everyone doesn't have that ability. I don't practice that all the time, but it can be helpful. Pranayama can be helpful to practice a few of those breaths before you begin your meditation. It has been shown, and I'm learning at this university, that can be helpful in transcending whatever we feel we need to transcend, or whatever subconsciously that we don't even know we need to transcend in the meditation. So that would be the next thing that I wanted to really offer and share. If you guys are okay with doing a mini mantra meditation, if everybody's comfortable with that, I can guide us through that. Just let me know if anybody's opposed to that. I just don't want to make anyone uncomfortable or... Okay, so so what I learned was transcendental meditation, and you can go to tm.org and see all of the scientific results and studies that have been done on this specific type of meditation. I'm not an actual certified teacher for TM yet. That's part of my education now, but what I am able to do is teach mantra meditation, which is the underlying form of meditation for TM. But TM is just a coined, it's been coined, so you've got to actually go through a process to teach that. So what I'm sharing today is called mantra meditation. And there's so many mantras. What TM does when you learn how to practice TM with a teacher at the center. Again, you go to tm.org if you're curious, but I'm sure there's one near you. They're in every state. And so they give you a personal mantra. And so that's part of that program. You can apply for scholarships. You don't necessarily, there is a cost for that. I personally applied for a scholarship when I was interested and received that. And so that's how I learned. So I always recommend others that if you're looking for something like that, don't feel limited in any way, ask for help, and they are very willing to help you learn TM. But today what we can do is, I won't be able to give you a personal mantra. What I'm going to share today is called a seed mantra. And so a seed mantra is something that has an underlying meaning in Vedic traditions, but here in America, I know everyone's actually not in America, but in typical practices, it has universal meanings. And so there are many of them. And if you want to look for that and read on more about that, Deepak Chopra has a book called Total Meditation. And at the end of that book is 50 mantras and all of their meanings. And so that's what you can get into if you don't want to go to tm.org and just want to focus on your own. If this ends up being a good experience for you today, I recommend that book. So you can really learn more about mantras in general. So today, the mantra I'll share, the underlying meaning of this in the Vedic traditions is truth is my identity. So if you're uncomfortable saying the actual mantra, you can also use the meaning, truth is my identity. And nobody is usually opposed to truth. And so I really like to use this as a seed mantra, meaning that it could be a seed for each of us, whatever situation we're in, to lead us. We call it the mantra a vehicle. It's our vehicle that's leading us into our meditation. So a lot of people believe that meditation is when you turn off your brain. And that's actually not true. Meditation actually has an underlying meaning of thinking. So if we give ourselves a seed to think about and to carry us into, we call it transcendence. And this university teaches it is called the fourth state of consciousness. And the beauty of that is that there's no pain there, and there's only peace, and that there's minimal words that you can use to describe it. And it's different for everyone. And that's why I don't like to focus on the experience you're going to have. I don't say this is going to happen, you're going to feel like this, because I don't know. Every single person is very unique when they meditate and have different experiences. And what the university teaches us is that it's not about what we feel or the actual experience. It's about the results and the wellness that can be achieved by accessing a higher state of consciousness. So today, the mantra is called Sat Nam, and that's SATNAM. It does sound like NOM, Sat Nam. And again, that's truth is my identity. And so the instruction is super simple. You have your mantra, and I will mind the time here. And what we will do is close our eyes like we did with the breath practice. And then we will just immediately begin repeating our mantra, Sat Nam, or you can use the meaning, truth is my identity, within our minds silently, with our eyes closed. And then every time a thought arises, or a feeling, or a belief, or something comes into the thinking mind, we're going to get back in our vehicle of the mantra, Sat Nam, and we're going to ride that vehicle back into transcendence. And again, there's different descriptions for what that's going to be for each of you. But what I do know, and what I do believe it can be a result, is more peace of mind, whatever that is in your life. And for me personally, I will share that I've been able to receive answers in these mantra experiences where I keep going back to my mantra instead of the random thoughts that people call ADHD. And there's so many diagnoses when it comes to mental health. So in our mantra, what's beautiful is that we're focusing on our wellness when we mantra. When we mantra, we're not worried. We're not thinking about what's the future. We're not meeting with our physicians and discussing our muscular dystrophy. It is a practice that we use to go beyond physical being, actually. So let's get into the mantra. Again, I will mind the time, and so I will definitely be looking back at my clock there to make sure we don't stay in meditating past the call time. It has been said that you can lose track of time when you're meditating. You've heard of yogis, being on a hill for days. And so that we won't do that today. What we're going to do is practice, if everybody's okay with 5 minutes, I think that 5 minutes is a great start, and that's how I began. That's where I started. Typically, what your goal would be is to mantra for 20 minutes. And, some people that frightens them. I mean, it did for me. I thought, I can't sit for 20 minutes and just say the same thing over and over. How boring. I mean, that was one of my thoughts. But I did see the results in others, and I read about the benefits, scientifically of TM, mantra meditation specifically. And so that did convince me to go ahead and give it a try, and eventually go to the center, tm.org, and actually learn and get a personal mantra and really incorporate that into my well-being. And I'm just grateful to be able to share this with you today. So if everyone could close their eyes. And then we will begin repeating our mantra, Sat Nam, or truth is my identity. And you're just going to stay in that vehicle. You don't need to focus on your breath, your posture, just as long as you're comfortable. You want to be comfortable. And then your eyes closed, and then begin repeating your mantra. So you're in your vehicle, Sat Nam, Sat Nam. And I'm saying this out loud so that you can internalize the words in case you need to hear them again. Sat Nam. I will quit repeating it in a couple of seconds though, and then you can just carry it on. And if you forget it, that's okay. Again, you can just use the word truth, even at the end of the day. Okay, so let's begin our mantra. Sat Nam. Sat Nam. Truth is my identity. All right. To come out of our meditation, we simply stop repeating our mantra, and then we begin to move our fingers, toes, whatever parts of your body is comfortable to begin moving around. You can keep your eyes closed and just begin to move your body gently. And then you want to open your eyes and then close them again. And then open them again. And then close them again. And so we take time and patience with ourselves as we come out of these mantra experiences so that we feel comfortable and safe. We don't want to stand up too quickly. We can open our eyes now and take a couple of breaths into your abdomen. And that is mantra meditation. You can practice this anytime, anywhere. It's very accessible and safe, no side effects, as with some substances and medications. That's the reason, one of the reasons I find it to be so universal for people to actually practice. Does anybody have any feedback or questions or thoughts for this, after this?
That was incredible. Thank you.
Okay, good.
I felt weightless and like I became a grain of sand. It was kind of odd and a little bit exciting.
Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And again, everyone will have a different experience probably. As you practice, you'll even realize that each time you meditate can be very unique and different. But that's that. Go ahead.
I hadn't done that before, so that was great. It's I didn't want to come out of it.
Good. Well, that's your sign that next time you can do a 10-minute and rise up till you get to 20, or just go right into a 20-minute. And the way I use the timer on my phone on vibrate. And so I'll set it right next to my leg or a part of my body where I'll be able to feel the vibration at the end of that time. I don't put a sound or anything that can actually startle me out of the meditation. We just want to gently come out, right? So I set my phone on a timer with the vibration, and then I put that somewhere near my body. And that's how I keep the time by myself, because meditation is a personal routine. We can obviously experience community meditations like this, and but the goal is that this be part of your self-care and your daily practice. Yes.
Rita, are there any resources you can recommend for people if they want to continue this practice beyond the fitness, feeling fit?
Yes, absolutely. So I mentioned a couple of them. If you want to go, you can use tm.org. That's a great site to at least learn about all the benefits. And once you see what science shows, it's really sometimes easier to commit to a practice, and because that is the most important part, committing and then practicing. Another way, though, I call it a daily check-in form, and I do offer this to anyone for free. It's definitely not a cost for me to do the actual form. It's a Google form. And so, but what I've listed is different. The first one is the guided meditation. And then there's a couple of other practices. There's one on the first thing I mentioned, the self-talk and the affirmations and I am statements. That's included in the daily form. And then there's just recommendations for books, things you can read, to be able to create a daily routine. Because if you create a daily routine and we can be committed, then we can really gauge the results, right? And sometimes having accountability and knowing that somebody's going to be expecting your form check-in to come in that day, sometimes that's all we need to really commit to a practice. So I've created a free daily check-in form, and I will send that in the email. And anybody is welcome to use that. If I receive responses, I do respond. If there's a need for me to connect with somebody, I do that, and I keep track of this daily. Sundays is also available. If you would like to practice mantra meditation with me, again, like this on a Zoom call, you're welcome to schedule on my website. I'm not looking for, business through this. I do offer free sessions, especially right now. I'm pretty sure my practice is going to be a nonprofit. But what I really enjoy helping right now, I have teenagers and veterans and those on a recovery journey, and they come in person, and I help them learn mantra meditation and commit to a practice at no cost. So I'm just really here to help. Another resource would be that book, Total Meditation by Deepak Chopra. There's the meanings of mantras in various ones. I will admit, though, I used the same mantra for over a year. The first, when I first started the meditating, and there was so much benefits. Like I just didn't see a reason to look further. But then again, transcendental meditation found me, and that's when I found my personal mantra. So if you really feel like this is livening something within you, I would recommend to go ahead and go to tm.org and find a local center where you can actually go and experience this in person with someone, receive a personal mantra that could, potentially be a great benefit.
Rita, could you put your email address in the chat, and then folks who would like to contact you directly will have that handy?
Yes, I will. Thank you very much for mentioning that. Actually, I'm on my phone and it's really hard for me to type this. I might accidentally hang up. Would you mind if I tell you what it is to type if someone's on a computer? Okay, thank you. So Rita Lynn, RITALYNN at sundaymeditate.com. And then you can try, if you'd like to go to the website and see anything on there, you can try the sundaymeditate.com. We're still working on that. I think on Safari browsers, for some reason, we're having issues loading on Safari. But you can also use my actual website, Seraphim Holistics, SERAPHIM holistics.com. Yes, or email me and I can send you that part. And then does anybody else have any other feedback or anything? Carl's going to put that in the chat for me because I'm on my cell phone and I don't want to accidentally hang up.
Sure, no, got it. I can also post it on the calendar.
Sure, yes.
So that people can look that up later.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. We are sadly out of time, but we hope we'll have you back again from time to time. Thank you, everybody who joined us today. And we are always open to suggestions about feeling fit. If there's something you'd like to learn more about or some kind of session, whether it's, meditation focused or exercise focused or anything else in between, let us know. We're here to provide a program that gives value to you. So thank you, everybody.